this lesson we're going to be learning Old Man by Neil Young. It's one of my favorite tunes. I love Neil Young. I've played this tune for a long time, which might actually kind of make it a little harder for me to teach because I've kind of not just played it my own way, but might not play it exactly like him, and I'm very used to playing it this way. But it's definitely in the style of him, and he's the type of player, he's not going to play verse 1 and verse 2 the same way every time. You could really drive yourself crazy trying to play it exactly note for note. But I think what most people are looking for, just they want it to sound like Old Man, which we can do here. So cool tune. It's not a lot of chords. We need D, we need F, we need C, we need G, we need an A minor 7, which is like an A minor, you take your third finger off, and we need E minor 7, which you play an E minor and then add your pinky to the 3rd fret of the B string. And then we start with this, it's like a D minor 9 chord. We'll get into that more in detail here in a second, but those are the chords. The hard part about this tune is getting the feel of it. And Neil Young uses a very recognizable way of strumming, where it's like kind of partially palm muted most of the time, a lot of the time, especially in the verses and stuff. And you kind of are, so it's not palm muted like, but it kind of, your palm is kind of bouncing as you pick. So it's not like the intro, let's say. If I played it not in his style, I just played it without the partial palm mute, it would sound like this. Which doesn't sound bad, but it's not quite the vibe that he's got. Now let me play it with the partial palm mute. It sounds more vibey, more like him. So if you can do that, great. It's hard for me to explain how that's done. I'm basically palm muting mostly the lower strings. So on this first chord, it's the 5th fret, G string, 6th fret, B string, and then you need the D string to ring out, and you need the high E string to ring out. That's what makes it a D minor 9. I'm really just palm muting the D and G strings. And as I'm picking down, my palm is falling just right in front of the bridge. So you get that sound. But it's not a palm mute, it's a partial palm mute. It's hard to explain, it's a feel thing. There's that. That's important to know, or at least try. Okay, so let's get into the actual notes. So the other thing about his strumming is he's pretty much constantly doing 8th notes. So just keep your hand going up and down pretty much the whole time. So your every other note, like one note is the lower strings, and then the upstroke is the upper strings, or the higher strings. So it's that kind of thing. Just faster, okay? So the actual notes. So he does start with a quarter note, not an 8th note, but it's you're gonna pick basically just the D and G strings, palm muted. You're holding this chord. Then you're gonna do a hammer-on to the 5th fret. So you're going to strum the G string open and then hammer down on the 5th fret. And I'm picking, you know, you want to get the B string in there. Okay, like that. And then the 8th notes just start in. So there's 3 bars of that. And the first bar is the only one where he starts with the quarter note. Every other bar after that, that hammer-on is on the downbeat. Okay, so another thing I want to say too, you'll drive yourself crazy if you try to look at this tab, this chart that I've made, and do every note exactly like it is. What I'm trying to indicate on the tab is just that it's lower strings, higher strings, lower strings, higher strings, lower strings, higher strings. You don't have to be so specific, like, you know, you'll see there the on the and of 3 in the first bar, there's a 6 and a 0 on the B and high E strings. If you hit the 5 on the G string with that chord, no big deal. Don't be so specific. It's just, you know, it's low, high, low, high. Let me slow that down so you can see it. Okay, so that's the first 3 bars. Then it goes to a regular D major chord. And again, it's up, down, or down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So it's down, well, on the quarter note, it's just a down. Down, this is bar, excuse me, bar 4 on the D chord. And then we have a hammer-on the 2nd fret while we're holding this D chord. Now I'm going to pick that as a downstroke. Down, down, and then 3 strokes on the lower notes. And then we do a pull off from the 3rd fret to the 2nd fret. And then 3 more 8th notes on the lower strings. And then you take your 2nd finger off for a D sus2 chord, and then 2 more strums on that chord, 2 more 8th notes. So it's, sorry. And again, it doesn't have to be exact, you just want to get in the style of, so if it sounds close, then it's good. So that's the whole intro, and that takes place 3 times. So it sounds like this. And then it does do that first part on the D minor 9 one more time, and then it goes into a different chord progression. I'll play that now. That's basically the verse as well. So the feel of, there's some little hammer-ons in there within the chord, which he is known for doing. So we're at bar, let's see, sorry, bar 9 on the D chord. So just a D, you know, kind of some low, some high. And you see that double zero at the end of that bar? That's just, you're hitting the strings as you're moving to the next chord. And then we go to the F. And then there's double zeros there too. Again, it doesn't have to be those specific strings necessarily. It will sound good regardless. So on the F, 4 eighth notes, down, up, and then so I'm taking my second finger off, strumming, so we have an open G string, and then hammering that down. So then we're to the C. Oh, sorry. Okay, so that is low, higher strings. Then we do a hammer on from the second fret, or 0 on the D string to the second fret. And then a hammer on, same thing on the G string. So, and then you take that off, and then back to the 2. And then the downbeat, the next bar, is another higher strum. And then 2, open, another strum, and then G. It's hard to do this exactly like he does. As long as it's in the flavor of, it's going to be fine. So that's how it sounds. So you go to that G right at the end of that bar. So let me play those 4 bars. And that is pretty much exactly how I have it tabbed out there. Okay, then you do basically the same thing, except this time we're going to go D, F, C, back to F instead of the G. So same thing on the C. And then you go back to the F. And you can do the same thing basically on the F every time you get to it with the little hammer on. Okay? So that, and that's going to serve as the verse too. So the verse is D, F, C, G, D, F, C, F. It just alternates. Okay, there you go. That's the verse. Well, that's the part of the intro, but then the same as the verse. That's exactly the verse. And it does that twice, that whole progression twice. Now at the end of that, it does that, goes D, F, C, G, D, F, C, F, D, F, C, G, and then the last time around for the verse is a little different. It's going to go, let's see. Last time, D, C, F, and then you have this little climb going into the verse. Now, in the verses, you can be a little more simplified, and you'll see that in a tab, especially on the C chord. I'm just going down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Just a hammer on, not the whole, not that whole thing. You can do it, it's fine. I'm sure he does do it somewhere in the song, but you can simplify it a little more in the verse, especially if you're singing. It's tough to play note for note singing along. So the whole verse. Last time's different. D, C, F, G. Okay, now when you get to that G, that last bar, it's just down, up, and then 3rd fret E string, open A, 2nd fret, 3rd fret to open D. Now that open D is the downbeat of the next section. It's a little transition before the chorus. Okay, so we have a little hammer on there on the 2nd fret. Pull off from the 3rd fret to the 2nd, similar to what we did earlier. And then open. So we're doing this little melody kind of within this D chord. Then you have an A minor 7. So it's an A minor, you take your 3rd finger off. And then you have E minor 7 to G. And the E minor 7 is an E minor chord with your, you know, you can play it like this. I like to play it like this. You just got to get the 3rd fret of the B string. Now if you can't reach that, just play an E minor chord. That'll sound fine too. So that's just a regular E minor going into the chorus. You could do those all downstrokes too if you want to kind of give it more of like a build feel going into the chorus. Okay, and then this is the last part, and then everything else in the song pretty much just repeats. So the chorus is kind of some weird timing in there with the chords. So it's 2 bars of D, just basically down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Basically 8th note. You could just do all 8th notes. Then we go A minor 7 briefly. So it's quarter note, 8th note, to an E minor 7, so it's E minor 7. So we got so half a bar. It's half of that last bar of the chorus is half a bar E minor 7 and half a bar of G. And you just do that 3 times. That's the chorus. we're back to our transition. Same thing as the verse. Okay, so after that, you got another verse, another chorus, and then you go back to the intro. It goes back to the... I think it does it twice this time. No, it does it 3 times, I think. And then it goes. It does that little thing on the C, and it goes to a G and then a D. So it's the outro part that we're working on. That's how it goes. So D, F, G, and D. And that's it. So that's the whole tune. It's definitely kind of a feel thing type of song. You know, it'd be hard to play it exactly note for note, just like he does in every part of every verse and blah. But I don't think anybody's really looking for that. You're just looking to get the vibe of the tune, and hopefully this lesson does that for you. Reference the tab. I would pay more attention to just listening and trying to get that feel than hitting each note in this tab that I've charted out for you. But the tab's there for reference if you get lost or you don't quite get what note to play or whatever. It's there, but as a guideline, but I would try to listen more and just get the feel of it. And just remember to keep your hand going in that 8th note fashion. Down, up, 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 down, up. And you can add stuff into this song too. You don't always have to do those little hammer-ons and kind of spice up the chords with like the hammer-ons and stuff. You don't have to always do it in the same spot. You can do it anywhere you want, you know, and it'll sound like, you know, Neil Young. I mean, you can really play around with it. So there you have it. That's Old Man by Neil Young.